So we thank God for this opportunity to gather. And I understand there are many of you online watching this morning, and we just pray that you will receive the blessing that is being released through this encouragement. Really, this is about encouraging parents to rise up in new strength for this hour. I think that we are in the midst of one of the biggest movements ever as we see what's happening in our communities today. And as you all know, God's design was always that parents would be the caregivers, that they would be the ones that would nurture and develop their children. And that has not changed. And therefore, we're here to encourage you that you have authority, you have rights, you have the anointing, and you have all that you need to be the most effective parent, caregiver, supporter, advocate. And if there's anything in you that doubts who you are today, you will leave here today awakened to what God has called you to in this hour. And we just want to thank Pastor Peter and Tricia for opening King of Kings. I really believe that this is where it needs to start. This is a movement, and it may be not as developed as we think, but it is growing. Parents are awakening to what their rights are, and I can tell you as someone who's been working in family support services for many years, the joy that I see when parents awaken to who they really are and the rights they have, there's nothing impossible. And so I want to encourage you to be thinking and understanding that you have a role to play. And I wanted to also just give room. I know Pastor Tricia, this has been her vision, and I want to give her an opportunity to just come and share. Amen.
Hallelujah. This is a burden on both of our hearts, and we believe that we as parents, grandparents, as the body of Christ need to take a stand. It's not just for parents right now. And the scripture that I was focusing on this morning in my meditation is Daniel 11:32 in the English ESV version. It says, "The people who know their God shall stand firm and take action." And we are people who know our God, and we're taking action because this has absolutely nothing to do with academia. It has to do with perversion, and the enemy is after our children. And in the book of Exodus, Pharaoh said to Moses, you can go, but leave your women and children behind. And see, we're not leaving our kids behind. And it's up to us to take a stand for what's right. So I'm excited that Pastor Carolyn's here and her team to teach, because this is so important. And the other thing, and I'll give it over to my husband, the other thing is, for so long, the enemy's strategy was to keep the church silent and out of any political arena, any arena that wasn't in the church, like the school board or, politics. That's a diabolical lie. It's a biblical perspective that we have to take a stand for. And so that's why the church has to rise up, not in anger, but where we have a strategy to know what our rights are. And our rights are to take a stand for righteousness' sake. And so that's what we're doing. And we are elevating the voice of parents and teachers. There's teachers here that aren't going to abide by what the enemy's putting out there. And so it's perversion, it's porn, and we will not allow it to take root, and to allow our children to have this trash imparted into them. They want to take parents' rights away. I was looking up certain things, and listen to this real quick. If I can only get the page open. Jesus. It says here, some states are trying to reduce the age of minor consent so that parents are eliminated from a child's health care decision. Are you kidding me? The other thing says some states are allowing teen girls and younger to get abortions without a parent's consent or knowledge. Hospitals are giving doctors the right to remove life-sustaining treatment from children without parental notice or consent. Courts are removing children from the custody of their parents when parents object to gender transition for their children. Now, see, this is what they're projecting. Now, if we just tolerate it and don't stand up for our rights, that will be implemented. And we cannot allow that. Amen?
Yeah, I concur with everything Tricia said. I concur with everything Carolyn's going to tell us today. I'm not going to be guilty, like this poster over here on the right says, of allowing the family to go down on our watch. And this is our time right now, and if good people stand by and are passive when evil exists, then it's our fault for not saying something. We may not always get it perfectly right, but that's not what we're here for. We're not here to let the culture go down against all that Christianity stands for, that we are made in God's image, that marriage is defined by a man and a woman consenting in a covenant relationship. And that is what Mario Murillo said when he was here with us, said that is the immune system of the culture, is the family unit. That's what keeps us together. That's what keeps society together. And when you rob that, there's a diabolical attempt to steal people's identity at a younger and younger age. My dad served in World War II. He wouldn't believe the things, how America has changed in the wrong direction, things we used to take for granted. And if the church doesn't stop this, then I don't know that we can rely on other people to try. We're united around the belief that we have to love the Lord our God with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength, and be obedient to what he tells us to do. And this is sexual perversion. The culture will always try to normalize sin and make it seem like we're the extremists, when this has worked for thousands of years, and nothing that they're proposing has ever even been tried, so it certainly doesn't have any track record at all. And perversion is going to be appealing to people because it means they don't have to have any boundaries on their lives. And it's right out of Psalm 2. Why do the heathen rage and the people plot a vain thing? The vain thing is that we don't need God. Only a fool would say in his heart that there is no God and that we don't need him. So we're not going to stop talking about this. This is the stand that the Lord has asked us to take, and I keep being reminded of what Esther was told. You're here for such a time as this, and if you don't do it, God will raise somebody else up to do it, but you're still going to be destroyed. So you better take a stand, because if not you, he'll use somebody else. So we have decided this is what we believe in, and we're not going to be quiet about it. We're going to talk about it and educate you and not break the law, but find out what our rights are within the law. And I can't think of a better person here that understands the spiritual side as well as at least in our state. I'm just going to finish with this. I've been a financial advisor for 30 plus years. It's so difficult to live in the state of New Jersey when the taxes keep going up, and we have more taxes here than anywhere, I think, except California. And the idea that the public school system is so bad that I have to take my child out of the public school system that I'm paying for with my tax dollars, already the highest tax state, and then pay for something else, whether it's a private school or I have to quit my job so I could stay home to raise my children and homeschool my children. That's an outrageous choice that we're being asked to make, and many people just can't make that choice. They need the two incomes just to be able to live here. So then what happens? People move out of New Jersey and they head south to save money, and we're left with more and more liberal people here. No, we're taking a stand. We're putting our stake in the ground and saying enough is enough. And however we do that, we have to wait and see how it unfolds. But I'm a little bit grateful that there are signs that the pendulum is starting to swing back, and that people like Elon Musk, who you never would have thought would be an advocate for Christianity, but he's an advocate for free speech. He's recognizing how demonstrably evil it is when you shut people down from talking. That's what all the repressionist regimes have always done, is to say that speech is violence and we're going to shut you down and deplatform you. That's not what America stands for. So there are many little green shoots that are popping up in the culture from people you might not expect. I'll finish with this if you have the stomach for it. There's a book out there called Irreversible Damage by a lady, what's her name? I'm blanking out on the name right now, but I'll think of it. And it's not a Christian book, but it's just a survey of what's happening in America. And Tricia read some of the statistics, but she's she's fearless, this lady. She risked her whole career, and her book has been banned from Amazon and other places because they don't want the truth of the story coming out. That in Oregon, a 15-year-old girl can have her breasts removed and hormone injections without her parents even knowing about it. No, sorry, no. You can't have our kids. Got the name Abigail Schreier. I thought of it when you said it, of course. So, look, there's plenty of other resources out there. The Christian authors are also writing about this. It's not just that. But look, this is one where this lady's not a believer, and she's recognizing it. So if the unbelievers are recognizing that the foundations of the culture are cracking, the very foundation of the family as the central unit of our culture, what excuse do we have? Well, we know the Word. We know the Bible. So I hope you're going to take notes and pay attention to everything Carolyn and her team are saying here today. This is too important to ignore. So thanks for being with us.
It's like a roar, rising up. But I just wanted to say this. In the summer, in July, we had a prophetic word that was released about family restoration. There's going to be family awakening and family revival. So I want everyone who's watching and everybody who's here to be encouraged. But we have to take a stand, and we have to declare what's right and not back down, because these are our children. And like my husband started out and said, it says, my family, not on my watch. And so we have even spirit. You may say, well, I don't have children. You have spiritual children. It's our responsibility to take a stand for what's right. So we're excited to have Pastor Carolyn share here this day, and go for it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, pastors. I really appreciate this opportunity. This has been a life work for me. And the reason that I became involved in establishing New Destiny Family Success Center is because of the love that God put in my heart for families. And it so gripped me, this love, that I couldn't run from it. And therefore, I stand before you today, some 16 years later, having walked this journey. And I can tell you, parents are concerned about what's happening. And I think of this, the story in the Old Testament where Elijah said to Elisha, there are more with us than with them. There are more with us than with them. And even though it may look like there is not the support or that people are not engaged, people are awakening. And this opportunity today is awakening. It's an awakening, and it's going to build and build. And I can tell so many testimonies of when I've seen parents come together in a community, in unity, and show up at board meetings and show up in the public square and say, you will not. And they have been able to reverse it. So what we're going to be sharing today, we're going to start at the beginning, because it's so important to understand our role as parents when that baby is in the womb. And I'm so excited. I have Kashika Phillips here with us from our team. And we're going to wait just a minute, Kashika. And Dyra Pena is in the back. She's here to do translation. So we were prepared with headsets. And so, today she may not be able to be translating, but know that we are prepared to do that in Spanish. And we're believing God to be able to do it in other languages. But all of our material can be translated into Spanish as well. So with that, I wanted to just begin by saying that Kashika's going to come in a moment. And what we want to do is set the stage for what God intended, that he created us. In Psalm 139, he says he knit us together in our mother's wombs. It was a mother who birthed us, not a birthing person. We were birthed by a mother. And so even now, we have to be careful how they're trying to change the language. We don't do chest feeding, we do breastfeeding. These are just ways that the culture is trying to impose on us what they think we should be saying. But we're here to declare that God has given us a voice, and we have the right to speak what is on our heart. We live in the country with a First Amendment that has freedom of speech, and therefore, I didn't see anywhere where I have to say what somebody else gives me to say. I have a mind, I have a logic, I have ability to analyze, and therefore I don't have to take what someone tells me as the way to be and the way to do. God has already informed that for me. So as Kashika's going to come, we're going to have her share from the beginning what God did in the womb. And then from there, we're going to share with you some of the ways as parents. The intervention for your child begins in the womb. And if you can begin to see the opportunity to be that advocate from the time that child comes out of the womb, it can divert a lot of what we see happening in special education and all these other realms. So I'm excited to invite Kashika to come. As she's coming, I want to just share a little bit about her. She's a native Pattersonian, and she has been with New Destiny for 3 years. She's been involved in going out in the community and meeting with pregnant women. Patterson happens to have one of the highest infant mortality and maternal mortality rates in the state of New Jersey. And so it was targeted as a city where we needed to go and connect with parents, specifically the women who were pregnant, and provide resources and support for them early. So Kashika has connected with hundreds of women, and we've been able to see the birth of many babies, and we are excited, and we are blessed to say we have not lost one mother, nor have we lost one child. And that's because people like Kashika is on the ground, encouraging, connecting them with resources, and giving them the support that they need. So with that, I want to invite her to come.
Thank you so much. That was a wonderful introduction. So thank you, Carolyn. Again, my name is Kashika Phillips. I'm a community health worker with New Destiny Family Success Center. I want to take the time to thank you guys, Pastor Tricia, for allowing me to be here today and to present to you guys on the first 5 years and a little bit on advocacy. So after Carolyn's wonderful, passionate speech, it is true. The first 5 years are the most crucial to a child, and it definitely starts in the womb. So first I want to start with this slide. It says, our home is my first school. Right? And as you see, have a cute little beautiful boy who says, chip off the block, and then his dad's shirt says, I'm the block. So I always thought that was cute. All right, so next we have the guiding concepts. So learning does not begin at school. Learning begins at home and with your families, right? So everything that they need to know in order to enter the real world starts at home. You are the first teachers. And as you know, it's a huge influence on the education, their attitudes, and everything like that starts at home. So this is a video. It's a short clip, about 2 minutes, and it's going to talk about the brain activity when a child is born. You're going to hear about neurons, how much are connected, and how the activities that you do with your child at home are really beneficial and influential. Influential. Always have an issue saying that word. Okay, so we go ahead and play the video. Can you hear it? Okay. Okay. Sorry, we're going to launch it from up there. Yes, thank you.
If you're watching on YouTube, everything's been working well. For some reason, we know why. Spiritual warfare. Facebook is not working right at the moment, but we're going to get it working. So if you're hearing from other people wondering why they're not seeing it, we're working on it real hard, okay? So, Lord, we just take authority over any attempt of the enemy to try to stop this message from going out. And we thank you that the devil is never going to match your power, and your word is going to go out regardless of any attempt to stop it in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you. Very true. So he's going to play the video from, okay. It's playing? Oh, keep going. Oh, okay. Yeah, so I could give you a little bit more information about the video. It's going to be about a baby, and they showed that there are 20 billion or million neurons that a baby is born with, but only 25% of them are connected. And as they get older and they use their 5 senses, these neurons start to connect. And by the time that they're 2 years old, they have enough, connections with their neurons to match an adult. So you can only imagine how much their brain is learning during this time. And it goes from just the language. It goes from, the attitudes that you have around them. It goes from whether you're reading or you're singing to them or whether you're not, right? And how important it is and the difference between the two. So that was really what the video was about. Yes, so we'll just continue with the presentation. Sorry, we weren't able to watch the video, but there is a QR code, so you are able to access the presentation after this, and you can watch the videos for sure. Okay, so next is a spider web activity that is really important, and it definitely show you how the neurons are connected in the brain. But for this activity, I actually need volunteers. So can we get 10 people to volunteer to come up here and just stand in the front? Awesome. So we're gonna have 5 on one side, and we're gonna have 5 on the other. So, awesome, I love this. Okay, can we just have one more over here? Okay, and you guys are gonna make a circle. Yeah, make a circle. So we have, these are brains, so you guys are brains, okay? So we have brain A, and we have brain B, okay? You can hold the yarn, brain B, and brain A. Use your brain. Okay, okay, so the starting person, you're gonna hold one side of the thread, make the circle a little bit bigger, right? A little bit bigger, over here. And you're gonna hold one side of the yarn and you're gonna throw the ball, okay? Like that, perfect, nice, yay, good job. And then you're gonna make it tight, okay? And then whenever I tell you to throw it, you're just gonna throw it all over the place to the next person, okay? So it makes a spider web effect. Got it? Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, so we're gonna start with brain A, right? So you guys are brain A, you have an idea how to throw it, all that great stuff. So brain A is, I read to my child every night for a half hour. You're gonna throw it 5 times. 1, keep it tight. 2, that's the fun of this activity. No, you're gonna hold on to your side. Hold it. Yeah. There we go. 3, making a web. 4, and 5. Good. Nope, looks great. Looks great. Okay, now let's start this one over, actually, because that was just an example, so you give her back the ball. Perfect. All right, brain B. I read to my child once in a while, so you're only going to throw it twice. Stuff under this. One more time. Yeah. There we go. There we go. Okay, perfect. All right, brain A. I talk to my child and try to engage them in an active conversation. You guys are going to throw it 5 more times. Yeah. Right, yeah. Yeah, see, you're catching on, yeah. Huh? I believe it. That's what the video was on. 4. And 5. All right. Okay, now brain B. I rarely talk to my child because they don't understand anything yet. You're going to throw it once. Brain B. Brain A. In the afternoon, I take my child to the park and we play. 5 times. Neurons are connecting. Right. What number is that? 4 and 5. Awesome, you guys. Okay. I go to the park. So brain B. I go to the park only when there are parties. 1. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's reality too, though. That's the saddest part. My child and I, brain A, sorry. My child and I sing children's songs together. 5. Yep. A, B, C, D. It's very happy. Awesome. Okay, is that 5? I love it. Such a beautiful visual picture. Okay, and then brain B. I don't know any children's songs, so I never sing with my child. 0 throws. Yeah. And brain A. We always go to the library. My child likes to browse through the books. 5. No. Mm-mm. It is sad. Okay. Smart. That was 5? Okay, yeah. Okay. All right. Brain B. The library is too far away from my house, and we rarely go. 2. 2 throws. Well, you didn't hold on to it. You didn't hold on to it. No. Okay. Yeah, but you didn't hold the thread before you threw it, but it's okay. Not yet, but hold it in your hand one side. There you go. They're perfect. And then throw it. Yeah. There we go. Okay, last example for the 2 groups. Brain A. My child names the produce and colors every time we go to the supermarket. 5 throws. Be careful. This is a smart brain. Baby Einstein. I know. Right. Right. That was 5? Okay. All right. And brain B, the last one. I go to the supermarket quickly, and rarely do we have time to name the produce. 2 times. Hold one in. Yeah, and then throw. Okay, so you guys, you could throw out one word. What did you get from this so far? Just shout it out and I'll repeat it. Brain B is very sad. Yes. Any heartbroken for brain B? Anything else? Developed. Brain A is very developed. Same age of a child. Very social, right? So he has all the skills he needs for his age. This one's probably a little bit more antisocial. And neglected. Wonderful word, wonderful word. You guys give a round of applause to my helpers today. Huh? Oh, we can play the video? Okay. Okay. All right, I'll do it after. Yeah, okay. All right, so again, thank you guys so much for your help. As we can see, brain A is way more developed, is way more connected, because when you think about it, those were brains, right? And as we got the video to work, and as you see, they're born with so many neurons, and it's our responsibility to get those neurons connected in healthy ways, with healthy habits. And how do you do that? You go through their senses. What is it? Sight, taste, feel, touch, smell, all those kind of stuff. You have to constantly enhance those senses to build those neurons. And you also have to ask yourself with that activity, especially those of you at home, is my child's brain A or is my child brain B? And to be honest with yourself about it as well, right? Because it's never too late to get your child from brain B to brain A. It's never too late. Okay, so with that being said, we're gonna go ahead and play the video.
I'm Rob Reiner, and for the next half hour, I'll be appearing on your VCR not as an actor or a director, but as a father, which is a lot more rewarding than those other two roles and a lot harder. So any of you parents or prospective parents who are nervous about your ability to raise a healthy child who achieves his or her potential, just know that you are not alone. My wife and I, we have 2 little boys, and I know how scary being a new parent can be. So the first bit of advice I have for you is just relax. All parents have felt the way you're feeling right now. But you should also feel excited because startling new scientific discoveries have given us insight about the emotional and intellectual development of a child and what we as parents can do during those first 3 years of life to affect what kind of person he or she will turn out to be.
I am your child. Whatever I know, learn from you. Whatever I do, you taught me to do. I am your child.
A newborn child, just 1 day old. The first day of an amazing journey that begins deep within the brain. For 9 months, your baby's brain has been growing at an astounding rate. Now in place, a network of more than 100 billion nerve cells growing and connecting with other cells. Cells that control all her thinking, movement, and senses. From the moment your baby is born, his brain is incredibly active and growing minute by minute. In fact, over 90% of brain growth happens in the first 3 years. And the way it grows is through experience.
In the process of making that 100 billion neurons, and each one of those neurons making hundreds of more connections, nerve cells are activated because there's been some sort of stimulation from the outside world.
And in the beginning, your baby's world is you.
If you provide consistent, predictable, nurturing, and enriched experiences for little infants, little babies, that has profound impact on how their brain organizes and how they function when they get older.
What are those experiences? And what can you do to make sure that your baby's getting what she needs? New science has discovered that your opportunities start a lot earlier than you might think. and that healthy brain connections depend on healthy human connections. The moment of birth and the birth of relationships that will shape your baby's world forever.
Okay, so that's what we'll wrap up. Again, you will have access to the video in the presentation. If you go on YouTube, it's called The First 5 Years. The whole thing is about a half-hour long. It goes really in depth. If we could sit here and watch it today, we would, but I definitely encourage you to go home and watch the full video. And we include it in our parenting class, so it's some really good material. But, to go back, so yeah, that definitely explained everything I was trying to say 10 times better, right? The senses and how much it needs the stimulation and how much it is your job as a parent to do the right stimulations for this child. Okay, so key points to remember, really briefly, the impact of the parent has on the brain of a child begins before they are born, which we had mentioned before. So the moment that you find out that you have a baby in your womb, you should be reading to it. You should be talking to it. You should be eating healthy. Everything starts as soon as, it has been created. And at birth, babies are born with 100 billion. I said 20 million. I was way off, so correction for that. But 100 billion neurons, and only 25% of them are connected. So it's your job to do the other 75%. The development of the brain occurs so fast that in 2 years, a baby can have the same amount of brain connection as an adult. So you think that your 2-year-old, is young and they can't talk. They're actually at the same level as you. So you should, you could treat them as such and make sure that they are developing. And then failure to satisfy a baby's need, like lack of love and attention and caring, will affect his or her brain. As you can see with brain B, with the example. That is a child that, like we mentioned, is being neglected and not getting the attention that they need. And then the development of a child's brain during the first 5 years affect his or her entire life. When children have healthy childhoods, they have more opportunities to become healthy adults. Very important. Which leads us to our next segment, which we're going to be talking about advocacy, right? So even though your job is to teach them while they are at home, you're also responsible to take care of them when they're entering the real world. And one of the ways that you can do that is through advocacy. So as you can see here, there's a quote, "There's no worse struggle than one never waged." So if you are not taking the responsibility to make the change that you see, then you're not going to earn anything, you're not going to gain anything, and you're going to, which was a beautiful word someone mentioned earlier, you're going to tolerate whatever is given to you, and it does not have to be that way. So when parents take action, they help the community, they help their schools, and they help other community programs improve and provide better services. Now there's another video that is coming up, and it's going to be on the case of the Mendez family. Now, the Mendez family, they're a family that was from California, and they wanted their children to go to a certain school. When they tried to enroll, they actually told them that, no, you cannot come to this school. You have to go to the Mexican-American school. And the dad refused to accept that. So he went above and beyond, and he connected with whoever he could connect with to make the change that he needed in this school. And at the time, what you'll hear in the video, which probably will explain it way better than I am, but at the time, there was a lawyer who was working in this field of discriminatory actions that are happening in public schools, and he took on this case. Right? So now he's advocating, he met the right person that could take it further, and the lawyer asked him, is there anyone else that's going through this? And the parent agreed, the Mendez family agreed, like, actually, I know about 5 other families, and they got together and they created the change that they wanted to see. And now their children are allowed to go to schools, any schools that they wanted to, and not just the Mexican-American schools. So, are we able to play the video? Okay. Can we start the video over? Oh, it is, sorry.
So in Orange County here, we had about 15 school districts that had separate schools for Mexican American kids by 1925. They had them in Santana, Garden Grove, Placencia, Orange, in many schools, in many school districts in the county. So, Mr. Gonzalo Mendez moves his family to Westminster. And when he moved his family, he told his sister, go take my kids to school and enroll them. And when she tried to do that, the school district there, the school people said, you can't go to this school. Your kids can, because Mr. Mendez's sister was married to a man who was light-skinned, and her kids came out light-skinned. They were not dark. And they had a strange name. I can't remember the name right now, Viduri or something like that, that didn't sound Mexican. So when the aunt went back and told her brother, she went back and told Gonzalo, my kids can get enrolled in the school, but your kids can't. Why not? Well, because they said they're Mexicans and they have to go to the all-Mexican school. Well, Gonzalo was upset with that. He says, what the hell is going on here? He says, my kids should be able to go to the same school your kids are going to, plus the school that's the good school, the integrated school, and not to the inferior Mexican school. The Anglo school had electric saws and lathes and things of that nature. In the Mexican school, they had a hammer and a manual saw and a couple of planers, hand planers. The Mexican school had discarded books that were old. The Anglo school had the newer books. In the 30s, in the 40s, we didn't have any Mexican-American attorneys. And there were only a couple in LA, but this attorney by the name of David Marcus had already shown that he was willing to take up cases for Mexican-Americans on issues that were very, very key, especially in constitutional law areas. So he agreed to help Mr. Mendez with his lawsuit against the Westminster School District. But he told Gonzalo, you know what, Gonzalo, I think your case would be, he asked him, he says, is this going on in other school districts that you know? And Gonzalo says, of course. He says, my compadre over in Santa Ana, his kids are going to segregated schools, and I know that the schools in Orange are segregated, and I know that in Garden Grove they're also segregated, and I know that in a few other areas. So David Marcus told Gonzalo, you know what? You need to bring in those other families to make this a stronger case. Then we can do what's called a class action. The official name of the lawsuit really is Gonzalo and Felicitas Mendez and their children against the Westminster School District, Lorenzo Ramirez and his wife and their children against the El Modena School District, William Estrada and his wife on behalf of their children against the Santa Ana School District, Tomas Estrada, William Guzman and his wife against the Santa Ana School District on their behalf of their children, and Frank Palomino and his wife on behalf of their children against the Garden Grove School District. I feel bad that not all the parties are always acknowledged in the lawsuit whenever we talk about this very important case. It's unfortunate that that's the way it is, that it has to be shortened. These families put together some monies, and then we started having fundraisers conducted by other groups and people to help fund the lawsuit. I think it's important from a historical perspective for children to understand all of these cases It shows that Mexican Americans were part of the civil rights movement to improve their situation. They didn't just stand back and not help out when their African American brothers and sisters were also pushing for civil rights. They were right there at the front also participating in this whole process.
Thank you. So yes, that was a great example of how advocacy works, how you can come together and be the change that you want to see. Next we have, so as I mentioned before, you do have rights and you have responsibilities. And I will say that if it doesn't feel right, then you're probably supposed to be doing something about it, right? Regardless if you know what your rights are, you can take the first steps to figure out where you can go, who you can talk to, who you can communicate with. So this is just a few things that you have the rights and responsibilities that you might not be aware of, especially when it comes to your children. And I'm not gonna go through all of them. Also at the end, there are some links and you're able to print out this whole thing, as well as like if you wanted to do a complaint letter or something like that. Those handouts are at the end of the presentation. But I will just go through a few. And the ones that I think, especially with the video that we just watched, was the rights to be free from discriminatory treatment. So verbal harassment, unequal educational opportunities, and unequal treatment. As you can see, the Mexican-American schools were completely different. They were not as tech-savvy, and it was unequal educational opportunities, so they have a right to do something about it. Another one that I wanted to go into was the right, this one I think is very important, the right to visit your child's classroom. A lot of times they'll tell you that you can't come in and you can't see the classroom and you can't watch the dynamics of your child with other children. And now they're trying to, kind of say that, oh, because of COVID. But this is your right. So there should be some type of policy where you're still able to do this and you have a right to speak up and ask about it. And then another one is, which is going to lead to our next portion, is the right to vote. You have the right to vote in your local school, at the district level, and if it's not working out in the way, if you feel like it's not getting through, you have the right to express it to people who are higher than your legislators or whatever it may be, or the principal, you go to the superintendent. So there's always ways that your advocacy can lead to the down the road that your heart truly desires, especially when it's to benefit your children. So that's all very important. So before we get to this section, I just wanted to say thank you so much, you guys, for allowing me to present to you. I hope that you got some good information. So I'm gonna pass it back on to Carolyn.
Thank you, Kashika. Kashika did an awesome job, didn't she? And she's very humble, but her work is really being recognized even in Trenton. So she's going to be speaking in front of a couple of legislators in a couple of weeks. And the reason why they like to talk to Kashika is because she lives on the ground. In other words, she's always talking with people in the community, she's advocating, she's connecting, and legislators want to know what's really happening. So they come to people like Kashika who can represent many of the concerns and issues that women and families are facing in our community. So congratulations, Kashika. You've done great work, and she comes to this with a passion. So I thank God for this team that he's assembled. So now we're going to shift a little bit more into how do we organize? How do we prepare to rebuff what we see happening in our school districts or in the community that we don't agree with? Clearly, the Mendez example is a great case. It's showing that if we can go as a group, we are much more effective than going alone. And part of, I think, the challenge we face as people who want to see change is thinking that we can go alone. It's not going to be effective. And there are skills, there are tools that are out here. We are one of 57 family success centers in the state of New Jersey. These are community centers, and I guarantee you they're in every county in the state. And if you want to start to organize parents, that's a perfect place to go. It's already paid for by our tax dollars. And all you need to do is go in and say, hey, I'm a parent. Is there a way I can connect with other parents? Absolutely. You will be amazed the people you will meet and connect with in these centers who share the same concerns, thoughts, and passion that you do. And then that's the starting point. So many people think, well, I'm shy, I don't want to talk to people, I don't want to just go up to people and start talking. No, go to places where parents are naturally gathering. Go to the PTA meetings. Get involved with the parents who are showing up at the meeting. Hey, ask them, are you aware that this is happening? 9 times out of 10, parents don't know because they're not in the flow of information. So we are literally, those who know have another level of responsibility to engage others who are not aware. Because where there's a lack of vision, the people do perish. And so we're now given this opportunity to be the catalyst. I say everybody in this room today, you already were catalysts when you came in, but when you go out, you're going to be even more. And this is not just for people who have children in the school system. This is really for anybody that lives in the community. And you'd be amazed the people that have grandchildren, they have nieces, they have nephews. Everyone's being impacted by this. So no one is off the radar in terms of who we can engage. Everyone can be engaged because I believe as a community, we all have a stake in this. Because this is going to determine what happens to the generations to come. And I don't know about you, but I have grandchildren. I don't want them to live in a world where they're being confronted in their identity, they're being confronted with their ability to have free speech, they're being canceled by the culture. That's not what God intended for this nation. And so therefore, if we don't take a stand, it will be an outcome that will not be favorable. It won't be favorable. So I want to talk a little bit about this process of organizing. And where does it start? It starts in the heart. In other words, somewhere in our hearts, we have to be, conflicted with what we see going on. And in our heart, we have to say, something's not right here. And then it comes to a point where we have a story. All of us have a story. You know, I come to this work because I had a story. And I had a story when I was growing up of being with my parents one evening. We were in the city of Newark where I grew up, and we were going out for dinner. And as we were going out for dinner, we ran into a young boy exactly my age, about 5 years old. And he was lost and no parents. And I was 5 years old at the time. And I remember in my heart thinking, no child should be left alone without their parent. And I didn't know what that ignited in me until years later. It never left me. To this day, I remember the time of day it was. I remember where I was. I remember my parents took the child. We went and got pizza with him. We called the police. The police came. They picked the child up. I remember every detail. But that was the imprint that was left on me. And as a result, I felt a call to be someone that would advocate for families because I had the privilege of being in one. I had the privilege of having the protection of a father and the nurture of a mother. And I just felt every child deserves that right. So everyone in here has a story. Everyone in here has a story of being in some situation where you've been confronted with an issue, and then you've had to say, reconciling yourself, now what do I do about it? This is a story I'm going to share about a woman named Rosalia Guillier. She was in the Chicago area, And she found herself in a situation where she was in despair and reluctant to get involved in anything. And she just sat back and just listened. Do we know people like that? Sitting back, just listening, doing nothing. But she could relate to the other women that she met and their challenges and struggles. So she was part of a Chicago family group, and she learned to visualize her goals and have a real plan to achieve them. So she became part of a parent team and got support. And that's so important for our parents. Many of our parents, especially in inner cities, are struggling to survive. And many of them are doing it alone. But when you can bring them into a supportive community, it helps them to see a vision, to see a goal. And that's where this Rosalia found herself. So when she started, she was so overweight, she needed a wheelchair. And she lost 250 pounds. And she learned more effective ways to communicate with her family, and now she uses those skills to be a community leader. That's what we're talking about here. So she joined what they call the Power Pack. We need some Power Packs in New Jersey. That is a parent organizing group. It's called Power Pack. And she became part of that. And together, they were able to, she said that what she liked about the group was that it was a diverse group. Many different diverse backgrounds, cultures came together. And before, she just sat back and watched what was happening, but now she trains other parents and leads other work to get children early education they need. I can tell you what we have going on in our culture right now is only going to change when you get parents at the grassroots level to rise up and say, no more. This is not political. When we make it political, we're going to lose the fight. This is an issue of the heart. And what Rosalie reckoned with first is herself. And she recognized, wait, I deserve more than this. I don't need to sit in a wheelchair 250 pounds overweight. I'm loose. This woman lost weight and got up out the wheelchair and became a leader of leaders. And that's where our role is. I really feel it's our role to awaken those who are around us to say, there's more in you. There is a leader in you, and it happens with leaders leading leaders. So the power of the parent story is the key. And one of the things that we want to do is help parents see what is it that is the vision that you have for your child. And I believe that it has to start with the vision and with this story of, you know what, I grew up in situations that I don't want my child to grow up in. I don't want my child to suffer from a lack of access to resources. I don't want my child to suffer and not be able to achieve their goals. I want better. So I will begin by having in my heart a vision. And that's key for the parents we're connecting with right now. The key question we need to be asking parents is, what's the vision you have for your child? Where do you see your child in the future? And let that be a catalyst to get them moving. They need to be able to describe the challenge. That's what Rosalie did. She saw the challenge she was in, and she says, I want more. And she saw the struggle, and she was able to do something about that. And so she reached a turning point. And I think that's where we are in our culture right now. We've got decisions to make as a community. And it's not one person's decision. It's our community's decision. And the question is, can we as catalysts begin to engage others to say, I agree with you, and I'm willing to join with you, and I'm willing to be a part of the change. I'm not going to sit back. How do we get people who are sitting down, like Rosalie, to get up? That's where we are. So the ask is, what do you want the elected officials to do? How should they think and feel after your story? So Kashika is now going to have an opportunity to talk to legislators. And when Kashika goes and shares what's happening with our families on the ground, that's going to put them in touch with the reality they're not even aware of. So she's starting with somebody's story. And when I tell you the stories we have to tell, it would be, we only tell one or two because there's so many we can tell. But she will tell a story, and hopefully that leaves the legislators with a thought, okay, we need to be doing something different here. And then once you have that turning point, then you begin to resolve the struggle and reach the conclusion or reach the conclusion. So what is know your audience. What do you know about your target audience? What do you have in common, and what are your differences? So we have to begin from a point of connecting with those who are in decision-making roles and understanding what motivates them to be in that role, and then understanding what is it that we have to share that connects with the reason why they're in that role. Most politicians and most people in those roles have a reason that they've been drawn to be in that role. That's where we begin to connect. And this is people influencing people. I believe that that has to be a part of the solution that we're going to pursue here. Otherwise, we're going to miss the opportunity to bring people on board for change. Not everybody wants to change. But this is what I did learn. When you show up at that board meeting or at that Board of Education meeting with 30 plus parents, and you get on the agenda, and you get 10 other parents on that agenda, and they begin to voice a concern, guess who's going to listen? Those elected officials. Because each one of those parents represents votes. And they have a voice. And if you're sitting in a seat of authority and you've had 30, 40, 50 parents showing up saying, this is what we want to see happen, they have a responsibility to make a decision. Either they're going to listen to you and get involved with making that change, or they're not. And guess what? I had a wonderful story of a gentleman I met a few months ago who lived in a town in North Jersey. He went to his officials at the board. He says, there's something wrong with the way that the children are accessing school. It's not safe. This needs to be done. That needs to be done. They ignored him. They did not listen. And he went out on a campaign. And he started knocking on doors. He now sits on that board. This is the change that's coming in the community from parents when they look around and say, wait a minute, why are they not listening? Be the change. Be the change. So, parent-teacher conferences. It starts with that connection with teachers. I tell you, I believe, and we have teachers in this room right now, there are many teachers who are not in agreement with all this. They are not in agreement. They cannot publicly stand up and express that disagreement, but I guarantee you this, they can become your ally. And if you know of teachers who are not in agreement, become a supporter of those teachers. Build a relationship with them. The first way you do it is by, showing up at these parent-teacher conferences. Letting the teacher know what your dream, what your vision is for your child, and then find out, what support do you need? How can I help you? And you'd be amazed. They are a wealth of information. The other thing that teachers also are aware of is where there are challenges for parents as it relates to accessing resources. So one of the things that's happening is because resources are now constrained, we have something called the IEP, and that's the Individualized Education Plan. Some, I believe the count is, I think it's 17 million students in our country right now require an IEP. 7 million. 7 million students in our country require an individualized education plan. What is that? The individual education plan is something that is made available to students who may have a special learning challenge. It doesn't have to be permanent. It could be temporary, but there is money set aside in every school district to fund the plan that's needed to get the extra intervention for that child. That money is not always easily or readily acceptable, so there are many parents who think, oh, I don't have insurance, or I don't have rights, and they have children sitting in classrooms who are not moving forward because they have a learning challenge that has not been addressed. It's very important, and I know Kiki shared this, and I can't emphasize this enough. From the age of 0 to 3, there is something called early intervention. These are free resources. You don't have to have insurance. You don't have to, this is a free resource. This is for any family that has a child that they suspect has a challenge. So there's all kinds of information. I think we have a link. What I highly recommend people to do is go to the CDC website. There is something called developmental milestones. So it tells you everything your child should be doing, 0 to 3 months, 3 to 6 months, 6 to 9, 9 to 12, 1 to 2, all the way up, I believe, to 5 years old. Look at those milestones. If you see that your child is not doing those things, that's the time you pick up the phone, you call your local child welfare agency and say, I have an 8-month-old right now, and I don't know, it doesn't appear that they're doing everything they need to be doing. They will send someone to your home. They will assess your child. You get that intervention from 0 to 5. You don't want your child to show up in kindergarten, and now that's the first time you realize there's some kind of challenge going on. Take advantage of the benefit now, and the beauty of early intervention is I have talked to so many parents who have said to me, because of early intervention, my child was on an IEP, but only needed to be on it for the first year, because all of the intervention that was needed was done well before that child hit public school. And I can't emphasize enough, public school is not the place where you want your child to be identified as having a learning challenge. So anybody here that knows anyone that has a child 0 to 5 years old who has not entered the public school, early intervention starts now. They come into your home, they get you connected with resources, and when I tell you superior, you don't want to have to wait until it's too late to have this intervention. One of the things that we've also seen that's been a really big benefit is that children who've been identified with autism or maybe on that spectrum, they have huge parent support groups. In fact, New Jersey, from what I understand, has one of the most active autism parent support groups in the nation. So if you know someone that has a child struggling in that area or on that spectrum, please get them connected. The sooner, the better. And so the IEP, again, is something that is available to students in the public school, and it's a federal law called Individuals with Disabilities Act that makes that benefit available. I don't want to get into depth on the IEP, but it is a very involved process. I would say if you are not a clinician or social worker or someone who understands what an IEP is, get someone to help you. There are parent support groups. One that is the statewide Parent Advocacy Network. What happens when your child gets an IEP is they end up with a case manager, they end up with a social worker, clinician who do an evaluation, they write up a plan, they have a meeting with the parent, they come up with milestones or what they call SMART goals. It's a process, and it may not be the right process for your child. So it's important to be informed about what the process is and seek help early. Why am I sharing all of this? I'm sharing all of this because the more engaged we are as parents with our children, the more we are going to be able to be leaders that can lead other parents. And one of the things that we found in our organization is that leading parents is the most effective model. You want a parent and a peer being the one in the lead when it comes to addressing issues. Public hearings, budget committee meetings, again, we need to be aware of how much is in our school budget. What is that budget being used for? If we don't agree with how the monies are being allocated in that budget, then we need to begin to express and get educated about why and how we can engage with getting that change. One of the things that we offer is something called County Council for Young Children. It's available throughout the state. It's a gathering place for parents. And so we use these gatherings to facilitate opportunities for families to get together and talk about issues as it relates to health, education, and mental health and safety in the community. So again, begin to connect with where these natural gatherings of families and parents are, and that's how we begin to get movement. So what are the roles of parents and families? Communicators, evaluators. I can't emphasize enough the importance of knowing your data. So we're going to look at some things going forward, but one of the ways that I find that parents are most effective is when they know their data. When they know who's being affected by whatever is going on, and when you go before people who are in legislative or some kind of political position, and you show that you know data, it changes things. So that's really, really important because it's a lot of things aren't addressed because they're hidden. So if we don't uncover what's hidden, we miss the opportunity to really get attention. Because it's also about saying, I see you and I'm holding you accountable. Mediators, parents can play all of these roles. I want to say, I think one of the biggest roles that parent plays is visionary. And that's what's lost in our process of government right now. We don't have visionaries. We need parents who say, no, I see a vision for my community. I see a vision for my family. I see a vision for my school. I'm willing to lay it down on the line because I believe in these things. And if that vision is there, it serves as a guide to where we're trying to go and what we're trying to accomplish. So how do we do the work together? One of the things that I learned from many parents is parents who try to get stuff done alone have lots of struggles. And the struggle is that you're the lone voice in the wilderness. And what you really want is you want people to come alongside and be a partner with you in the struggle. You don't want to struggle alone. So first is letting other people know what the issues are. And in the case of what we're talking about here today, and we're going to go into some detail on what the data is saying and what's out there, a lot of people don't know. We're going to walk away from this presentation today. You guys are going to have the link to the new curriculum. So you can take that information and share it. And know what, by the way, it's publicly available out on the web. But people don't know this. So when you leave here today, you're going to, when you copy that QR code, this presentation comes up, and in the end, there will be a link that goes directly to the curriculum. 2nd grade, 5th grade, 8th grade, 12th grade, everything is there. The teacher plan, the whole piece. And I don't want to get into the details because it's ugly. But if you want to be informed, do your own research. Don't wait for someone to do your research for you. Go to the source and find the data. And that's what's going to guide you. Then you start to let other people know. Then you start networking. Then we start interacting with other parents. Say, oh, you know what? Take the link, put it on your phone, start texting the link. Share the link. Say, hey, did you know this is the curriculum that they're going to be teaching our students this year? Oh, by the way, look at the 8th grade. Look at the 8th grade instruction. Did you know, and I hate to say it because it's gross, but in the 8th grade curriculum, they're saying that abstinence alone is not enough. Masturbation is another alternative to abstinence. That's in the 8th grade curriculum. Yeah, it's absolute perversion. And so just taking that alone and sharing it with everyone you know, and you're not giving them hearsay. No, this is the curriculum. Here it is. Read it for yourself. And then that's where we begin to see transformation take place, because people don't know what they don't know. And people perish for lack of knowledge. And unfortunately, our children will perish because our parents have a lack of knowledge. So how do we begin to represent families in our community? One, maybe do a survey. Ask parents, you know, what do you think about this? What are your feelings about this? Like I said, meet where families are. There's always natural gathering places where families are, and that's where you begin to make the connections. Communicate. Write something that you might want to share with people, that you can educate them about what's going on. You can take many of these links that we're going to share with you today. Take pictures of the links. Begin to share that with people. That way, because information is power. When people get informed and understand themselves, the issues, it changes everything. Because now they own that information, and when there's ownership of information, there's a responsibility for what you now know. So become the link between families and the group. Attend meetings in your community, in your schools. I had an interesting story of a school district and it was the Woodbridge area, I believe. And not Woodbridge, but somewhere that Middlesex County area. And a group of parents got together because they didn't like the fact that they changed kindergarten to a half day. So they gathered about 50 of them. They went to the superintendent's office. They said, we'd like to have a conversation with you. sat down with the superintendent, said, we don't agree. We don't think this is the right thing to do. Superintendent said, well, I think I agree with you. And they showed up at the next board meeting en masse, and they now have all-day kindergarten. It's not that difficult. People recognize that parents and community people have power. And yes, that school board is elected by the people. And it's elected by the people who? For the people. But if they're not meeting the needs of the people, then there's opportunity for change. And so these are just simple things that are happening every day, that people are rising up and they're coming together in a group and they're expressing what they feel is in the best interest of their community. And those who are sitting in seats of authority and power have to reckon with the fact that these parents have a voice and they have power. So this is just a little bit of some of the organizations that we can connect with. One of them that we put on here is called SPAN. It's Statewide Parent Advocacy Network. This is what I will say about that. We've partnered with them for many years. One of the things that they do that is absolutely amazing is they will come side by side with parents and sit in IEP sessions. They're experts. And sometimes just by having them in a session changes a lot of outcomes because they know the rights of parents and of students. And they also know what the responsibilities are of your school district. But the other thing that they do that's very effective is they train parents as leaders, similar to what we do. And you get practical training on how to organize and how to present your case and how to bring others alongside you. And I do believe we have their phone number there. And another slide, there's a group like this in every state. And there's a name for them now. We'll see that in a later presentation. Advocates for Children of New Jersey, again, they work with local, state, and federal leaders to identify and implement changes that will benefit New Jersey's children. I think part of what we have as an opportunity is to begin to connect with groups like that and say, what is your position on this? See if we can engage them to be a support in some of the change that we want to see. And then, of course, we have our website there. There's a treasure trove of resources on our website. I would recommend, if nothing else, you just go and get familiar with what's on there. And then I mentioned again that there are, in most counties in New Jersey, what they call the County Council for Young Children. These are parents who gather who are parents of children 0 to 8. And basically what they do is they come together and they start to look at what some of the needs are in their communities as it relates to education, health care, safety, mental health. Mental health has been a very big issue, as you all know, coming out of the pandemic. And I'm always raising my hand saying, listen, why are we going to complicate what has already been a very stressful situation? We have children who have come out of a very difficult period of isolation, and now we're going to hit them with a new curriculum about what? Really? What? Why would we do that? How about focusing on first things first? How about focusing on the mental, emotional health of our children before we start to burden them with information that have no means to process? And even yet, worse, parents who don't even know that they're being instructed in these things. And now you've got a child that's gaining knowledge and information with no way to process it, with no parent involvement, and they're already suffering in isolation and pain with identity and all kinds of issues. I don't know if you know, but African American and Latino young girls have a suicide rate of 1 in 4, 25%. So why would you introduce a curriculum to a young teenage girl who has already decided her life is not worth it, and now you're going to start to pile on her questions about her identity, her gender? Wait, whoa. First things first.
So can I say something? Because I tell you, I'm just so aggravated with this stuff. And greed. I'm looking up something about child development. And it says here, this is from a Dr. Dr. Hilton, who's a neurosurgeon. He said that early exposure to pornography is stressful for a child's brain. If a brain is stressed during development by sexual and/or violent content, disorders like PTSD, anxiety, depression, and ADHD can result. And then they were saying for the older kids, what's happening is there's an increase. He said for he's saying about the industry, just that it's industry, it's porn, right? And he said he's seen a definite increase in self-esteem problems because of porn in young teenagers. Okay, so the enemy is after our kids, and so they're trying to promote that and take our kids out and cause all these type of disorders. So parents, this is no joke. I mean, we have got to get involved and say absolutely not. And these kids aren't gonna. They're not gonna be exploited through this material, and that's what's happening. They can't reproduce themselves, or they're going to reproduce in the school system. And so enough is enough. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents.
Why would we want to put our children in harm's way? Listen, this is promoting suicide. We've got record suicides right now. So now what we're saying is we want to open the door and just promote even more. Because when you start to bring ideations into the minds of a mind that has already been through trauma and through isolation, through rejection, and now you're bringing in information that says, oh, you aren't what you were ever born to be anyway. So what? That to me is not healthy. That is not promoting health. That is promoting a spirit of death. And the suicide rate is the highest it's ever been. Why now? Why? There is an agenda. And, what is the future like with a community of people who have no idea who they really are and have lost connection with their family? Because at the end of the day, the family structure is at risk in all of this. And as it is, it has already been negatively impacted by so much that's going on. And now we're going to promote further destruction of the family. So we have children who are now suffering because of the breakdown of the family structure with thoughts of suicide and loneliness and hopelessness. I could tell you one day in one of the classrooms where we're teaching character ed, we said to the students, we said, well, tell us your vision for the future. You know what they said? They said, this is my future. We said, what do you mean by that? I show up here. That's it. Wow. Do you know for children in high school, they may start, this is by a Gallup poll. According to Gallup, In the 3rd grade up into about the 6th or 7th grade, at least 33% of students feel there's an adult in the school who cares about them. Do you know what that number is by the time they get to high school? 16%. So you've got literal hundreds, thousands of students, millions of students showing up in a high school setting, suffering with mental health, social, emotional rejection, all kinds of things. And they're showing up in a building and they're saying, nobody here is for me. And now we're going to throw on top of that confusion. So what we're saying is be a part of the change. We want to hear from you. In other words, we are hearing the conversation here today, and I think we've got an opportunity here to begin to be a catalyst, to inform people and to bring people on board. And I dare say, and I'm just throwing it out there, I believe there's 80% of the people out there who are in agreement with what we're talking about. So how can we get parents and families involved? And I think this is a good point for us to kind of take a pause, Pastor Tricia. I have a number of links that follow this where I can start to show you how to begin that process. But I really think we want to probably just take a pause. It's about 10:40. Maybe take a bit of a break and then come back. So about 15 minutes? Yes. 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 Intervention. Yes. Yes. I don't think so. My impression with it is they don't realize that the benefit is there for them. They think they have to pay for it. And yes.
Thank you. She was supposed to be speaking at the age of 1, but my daughter actually really started talking at the age of 3. So the doctor found that there was something wrong with her, so we had early intervention. So John asked, do we have to pay? She said, no, the state pays for it. Though John has great benefits as a retired correction officer, but she said, you don't have to pay for anything. So they evaluated her in our home, and she had a teacher, and she had a speech therapist, all for free. And the doctor, her pediatric was the one that referred us to it. So we went to the board. We spoke to them. They evaluated her. She's not autistic or not. Actually, y'all see her all the time. But at the same time, it's I didn't feel stigmatized as that she had special needs. At first, I did. But God, gave me the peace. But at the same time, everything was free.
And that is the most important thing. Yes, Pat is going to share.
Yeah, if anyone wants to talk about it personally, I served on child study team. That's my background. I'm a learning disability consultant. I've written the IEPs. So if you have a need, oh. Is that good? Okay, okay. So anyway, as a learning consultant, I'd be more than happy if you have individual questions. But you're to the whole idea of astigmatism and concern on the part of the parent. That is real in when it comes to the development of the IEP. It can block people. It can be a real issue, and it has to be talked through and worked through. There's a lot of aspects to this, and every school does not handle everything in the same way. However, the law is very, very clear. There are very definite rights. Also, with the early intervention, the qualifications for things have been compromised, so that what used to be considered normal development, it's lowered. Everything's lowered because the development of children have been compromised, quite honestly, with the masks. I mean, without going into a lot of detail. However, it's still worthy to do this early intervention, and I would encourage everybody to do it because you get the evaluation. So if your child doesn't qualify for services, you can then get them on your own. And you can even get some assistance if you do it through, again, it opens other doors, so don't ever not go for early intervention.
I was just going to say, because I'm a teacher in Bayonne in the school system, first grade, and what she was saying about the stigmatism is very real. However, like in early intervention, really no one knows about it because it's between you and the state, right? But once you get into the public school, I mean, the parents especially, the culture, some culture that parents are in. So for example, like there's a big culture in Bayonne of Arabic that I teach, and a lot of them don't want any part of it because it's a stigmatism thing, and they feel very, but you know, as you said, it is a process. You talk to them, you explain to them, you know, you tell them how it's going to benefit their child, and you know, so on and so forth, you know. So yeah, it is a real thing, but
Thank you.
yeah, you can't. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it is a very long process, but it is definitely worth the process. And also, I agree, in some districts, like they don't even want to test the child.
Because,
And so the teacher becomes the advocate if the parent doesn't.
right.
So you keep pushing, but you're pushing the parent as a teacher, and as a teacher, you're pushing the child study team, because now they're saying, because now that we have a quota, not too many kids. We have
Right.
too many kids to test. I don't know if I
The
should
budget.
say.
The budget
right.
becomes the issue, which is why in that previous slide, we said we need to understand the budget and what is the budget made up of. Because these things need to be included in the budget. And if they're not included in the budget, why? And, you know, again, you know, I think I echo what Anna just said, and thank you, Pat, for sharing. The IEP can be a beautiful support for our students as long as it's done in a way that is truly based on the child making advancement in their learning growth. However, if it is not written properly, the child could linger in an IEP for years and never see results. So that's why it's because some children need more. But if the district's not willing to pay, how can the child get more? But when you know your rights, this is federal legislation. When you know your rights, I know people, and I don't want to even put it out there, but I know people who have challenged the system, and they were so informed about their legal right, they ended up having their child taken out of one system and bust into a whole nother system that had the resources that they needed. They didn't even pay for transportation. That's the power of knowing your rights as a parent. So was there another comment? Thank you all for sharing. So it's 10:46. We're going to take a 15-minute break, come back at 11, and then we're going to go into sharing more on some of these resources. Hello. We have had a break a little longer than anticipated, but there's so much energy in the room that we are feeding off of each other's zeal. So I think that's a good sign. I believe we're going to leave here, and hopefully those of you who are watching this by live stream have really been encouraged and motivated to get up and do something. I hope that as a result of this information that's being shared, that you go and speak to at least one or two or three people and say, did you know this? Because people just don't know. And I keep saying it, people perish for lack of knowledge. And we're in an information age. Why do we have a lack of knowledge? The most information ever that's accessible, yet we still have a lack of knowledge. So we, I believe, have a special responsibility. But I want to ask Dr. Marguerite Berghini to come up and share a testimony of how she's had to do a challenge and how it all ended up. Thank you. Let's welcome her.
Thank you. I am so excited to be here. So this is what I will say. I'm a mom, and I have two kids, and one of them is graduating high school this year, and he's going to be going to Rutgers University, and my daughter will be going there next year. That's what she says. I have been involved with my kids' education. In fact, at one point, I homeschooled my son for 2 years, and that's one of the things I will say. Whatever you need to do for your kids, do it. I'm a doctor, and I can tell you I'm a solo practitioner, and I say, how am I going to do this? It can be done. They have been in Christian schools, so I haven't had the same challenges that perhaps other parents have had, but I will say this. Because my son is going to a secular college, one of the things that I did is I started looking at what they call core requirements or their core curriculum. Every student, regardless of their major, is going to have to go through classes that are required, period, by the school. As a parent, I encourage you to go through that website of the school and find out what is the core curriculum that is required, and then go through each class and read the description of what they are offering. Within those core requirement classes, there are also options, and you need to go through that and read and see. Your child might not know that, but you need to suggest to them, take that class, don't take this class, take this class, and look at the syllabus. Read it. You need to have these discussions with them when they come home so you know what is it that they're being taught. There are organizations, I think Turning Point, that they actually have what professors to stay away from, literally. Okay, so again, the advocacy as parents that we have cannot just stay at the level of elementary. We do lose a lot of students once they go on to college. And then I will say this. God has a sneaky way of putting his people in strategic locations for such a time as this. My mentor at Rutgers University when I was a student was a professor, Dr. Essien. When she got to Rutgers in 1968, I think it was, she decided that, you know what, I want to do something to help students that are underprivileged to make it into the sciences and go on to medical school and so on and so forth. She started talking to people within the university, and she was instrumental in opening an organization called Success in the Sciences. Wow. And what is special about this woman is that she just didn't want to be successful. She wanted to pull other people. But she did it with the love of God, and she did it because she had a calling for that particular assignment. Because of her stepping out, Rutgers is number 8 in the nation in placing students into medical school of underprivileged background. But I will say this, God had her in that position because she needed to be a light. And sometimes you think you can only influence people by overtly saying certain things about our faith. But you know what? When you love others, they will start to ask questions about why. And this is her legacy, that she has helped so many of us. But again, I just want to encourage you to stay with your eyes open for your children because they will need it. Because of this, as I was researching for my own children, I sent a letter to Rutgers, and they remember that I was an alumni, and they called me. And just because God opens doors, I was recently there. They asked me to speak in an audience of almost 1,000 kids. And I met the president of the university. I was on stage with him giving a student an award. Wow. God will place you in situations just because he has a purpose and a plan. And I acknowledge him for that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marguerite. Wow, what an inspiration. We are all here for such a time as this. We are the bridge builders. If not us, then who? And I feel like I kept hearing the scripture, "Here am I, Lord, send me. I'll go." Yes. And I wanted to ask Pastor Tricia to come. She has something she's going to share as well. She's going to talk to us about the infanticide bill that was introduced in the state of California.
Yeah, so Reyes, can you put that up on the screen, please? This bill, it says here, the Assembly members who passed AB 2223 infanticide bill, and we need to vote them out, and Maryland has introduced this. When I went online, it actually said that it was fake news. It is not fake news. And this is to take out children after they're born, that you can really take the life of an infant after being born for 28 days. This is outrageous. And again, we have got to stand up. Now, these are the people who voted in favor of it. And I said, Lord, I laid hands on it, and I said, Lord, give them dreams. I mean, really reveal yourself to them. And, because this is serious. Amen. Talk about worshiping Molech, because that's what this is. This goes way back to taking out. You see how the enemy's trying to take out our kids. Like, why don't you put them up for adoption? You're going to have them, that's murder. Yeah. And so now, Lisa, was it passed in Maryland? It's in the process in Maryland. We forbid it in New Jersey. And Lord, we say that this thing will turn around and dry up in Jesus' name, but we have got to take a stand. We can't just say, well, what will be, will be. That's baloney. We, as the ecclesia, have to stand up and go to our legislator and say, this is not happening. This is outrageous. And really, if you want to look at it from a Christian perspective, even like with Satanists and people in the occult, that's what they want, the blood. Satan wants the blood. And it's a blood sacrifice. And I know people may think it's crazy, or even you just said to me that some parents don't even want to hear about some of this stuff, and some parents don't want to hear about even what's being taught sex education-wise in the school system. It's our right as parents, it's our duty, it's our obligation as parents to be speaking the truth and not have other people. That's like a hireling. You know, the Bible talks about the sheep and the hireling, the shepherd and the hireling. Why are you going to have other people impart into your children when it's our right? That is not okay, and that has to shift. So, you know, it's you know, listen, better late than never. The church has been quiet for too long, but we have got to stand up, and we have got to take a stand for what's right. Lisa, you want to say something? Just come up here. So, again, we pray, but we have to take action, right?
And so we know that the devil comes to kill, steal, and destroy, and he operates in the spirit of divination and separation. So to encourage us and to enforce what Tricia just said, that it can take, and Carolyn, it just one life. Look what Esther did. And so it can take one person to make it different. Look what Marguerite is doing in Rutgers. But state-wise, it's the same. So while Roe versus Wade, every state was given the opportunity to restrict late-term abortions. Most did not, including New Jersey. We are at a whole nother level with trying to kill babies outside the womb. And even those people that have survived abortions have a voice now. So there's positive things happening as well. There's states like Maryland and Colorado and California, and you see the dividing of the states, because there's other states like Kentucky who are also getting ahead of this vote that is coming in July. Now, church, is the time not to relent, to pray, because this Supreme Court can change their minds. And they already took their vote, but we will hear June, July, whether or not Roe versus Wade is overturned. When that happens, that decision goes back to the state. That's why the states are been active at putting in position. Unfortunately, New Jersey, Governor Murphy has already enshrined, is the word that he used. So no matter what happens at the federal level, he has put into our New Jersey Constitution and New Jersey law that we will be an abortion state. But that said, states like Kentucky, and there's others, have already put in place and are pursuing banning abortion, period, at any stage. So there is a lot going on, and I would just exhort all of us. This is the time not to get off our knees about this Roe versus Wade vote. It is important, and I'll just end with this. Many generals of the state who are prophetic have prayed and actually saw separately a Supreme Court judge, who is actually not pro-life, change. So we need to come into it, and I feel the Holy Spirit with that declaration. So let's come into agreement with that, and that we will see this come this summer. Amen.
Amen.
So that's why, listen, this isn't about Democrat or Republican. This is about biblical mandates that we have got to vote. And you can't get caught up in that. Oh, my family, everybody in my family voted this one way. We have to look at what do they stand for. Look at what's happening in our country right now. Because we voted because of a party. We have to vote because of what it stands for, what they stand for, and what the issues are. Biblically, we have to take a stand. So we have got to look at what we have. So God help us. We have to pray. And we have to pray for the leadership, those that are in leadership. Lord, either get them to their knees or take them out, whatever. Amen.
For new leaders arising, it's no longer a time where we can sit back and let status quo direct our lives. And it's unfortunate that we've been, I think, in a way, very much distracted as a people. You know, there's so much that can draw our attention away from what's essential. And we were just talking, during the break, so many parents are about survival right now. It's like, you know what? Right now, I'm working 2 jobs, I'm working 3 jobs, but to what end? If you gain the whole world and your child loses their soul, to what end have you made that choice? And so now is a time, and I think Marguerite said it well. She's a physician in practice, and she homeschooled for 2 years. You do what you got to do. And God is with us. He is for us. He is not against us. I believe when we make decisions that concern life, that concern legacy, that concern the generations, God makes a way out of no way. And so this whole conversation we're having is about the leader among us. It's about leaders elevating leaders. And if we do not have representing us, like that picture, the people who promote life, who promote health, who promote the generations, then why are we voting for them? It's not about the party, it's about the issues. Do the issues that they represent what I believe and the values that I hold? So we're going to do a little bit of digging in here. We're going to get into some of these links. I personally really believe that unless someone does their own research, they can't own the knowledge. No one can take from me. That's why education is so important in our culture, because it promotes self-learning. And when you own information for yourself, when you go to the website for yourself, you Google it and you research it and you find the source, then it's yours. No one can take that from you. And so what we want to do is encourage parents and leaders in the community to know what they know and know it for themselves. So let's look at what our First Amendment right is, right? This is important for us to remember. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. We should all have that memorized. That is our First Amendment right. And that is part of the Constitution of this nation, upon which this nation was founded. The other thing I thought I wanted to bring out is this is a part of the state statute, Title 18.1, here in the state of New Jersey. And it's the parent's statement of conflict with conscience. Any child whose parent or guardian presents to the school principal a signed statement that any part of the instructions in health, family life education, or sex education is in conflict with his conscience or sincerely held moral or religious beliefs shall be excused from that portion of the course where such instruction is being given, and no penalties as to credit or graduation shall result therefrom. Title 18, Section 18A, colon 35-4.7. That's just for New Jersey. Yes, Pat. Yes.
That will work for everything you've been talking about in terms of sex ed and whatnot. It will not help with the LGBT stuff that's in every subject, because it's just part of the day. Like if they're teaching, this is an example, it's not, and every school is not the same too, because the way they're implementing it can be different. But for example, let's say I'm teaching music, I'm teaching classical music, I talk about Beethoven, then they'll teach his sexual orientation. So, I mean, it doesn't cover that because it's not a particular subject. It's just infused in every subject. But this is important to do, very important, because it takes away a big piece.
And the universities, I think to what Marguerite was saying, you've got to get that syllabus. And you've got to really review the syllabus to understand what is the content of that class. And if you feel that it doesn't align with your values, then find another option. But I do believe that, you'll see a lot of that. Now, can we purge this conversation probably from our culture? Probably not. But I honestly believe that that's where the parent's role as the child's, see, it starts with the parent as the child's first teacher. And one of the things that that is in the curriculum we teach is the importance of our values and our culture. The child gets that from home. And so if we have not, if we've been doing what Group A has been doing, we're doing life with our kids. They're with us everywhere we go. We're talking to them. We're affirming their identity. We're affirming their gender. We're affirming that they are beautifully and wonderfully made, and they have a wonderful future ahead, and they don't have to take anybody's word for anything. They have a mind. They have the ability to think. They have the ability to search a matter out and judge for themselves if it is in alignment with their values. See, the values come from us. Which is why there's an affront against parental rights. Because if the values really do come from the parent, wow, all we got to do is get the parent out the picture. We can get the parent out the picture, then we can teach the kid anything we want. But that goes against the foundation of what God really intended. He set children in a family structure for a reason. And if you look at the history of this nation, the history of this nation is built on family. Take African Americans as one example. When we came out of Reconstruction and we came out of slavery, the most powerful institution we had was the family. Even after all that oppression, after all of the scarring that happened, what remained was the family. And guess what? The government didn't like it.
Question about the writing the letter and all that, because I think Pat said that every school is different, right? Right. So so should I go to the principal or the school first, request how they're implementing this, or just go right ahead and say, if there's anything to do with this, it's a no-go? Okay.
Right, right. So I think what's important, Ariel, is that most people don't know that that law exists. So this is a good, listen, you got to stand on what you got. Right now, at least we have that. So let's get people informed about what their rights are, and therefore, if they stand on that, no one can challenge them, because that is the law. Now, do you have a right around how they choose to share everything? Not necessarily. But that's where our role as parents comes in. That's where our role as guardians, and hey, listen, I honestly believe we are back to it takes a village. it takes a village to raise a child, because so many of our children don't have a strong parental network. But if we are part of the village of any child, as aunties, as grandparents, as godmothers, godfathers, whatever we are, we can still have a positive impact in that child's life. So I think we've got to think beyond just our nuclear family. I'm in this work today because I see my city and my state is my family. You know, I'm not related to everybody, but I feel like I have a responsibility to see every child have a productive life. We're in this business of working with families at the point of conception. We have been given this opportunity from the state of New Jersey. So I don't understand the dichotomy of why we would want to kill a baby, but on the other side of the coin, we're saying, but we want to save them. I'm not going to try to figure that one out right now, but anyway, it's just an interesting conversation. So what we do have here is we have put links in these presentations. So Kiki shared the original video. That 30-minute video is powerful. It really does unpack what God has equipped us with when we come into the earth. We are fearfully and wonderfully made. And with the right parental and support in the upbringing of that child, there's no limit to what they can accomplish. Then there's some other links here on the power of a parent's story. We talk about the CCYC. We talk about the IEP meetings. There's a wonderful link I found online as well on the IEP. It's by a group called edpost.com. I'm not sure we got that one in there, but it's a very, very thorough write-up on the IEP. Edpost, edpost.com. There is a phenomenal, I don't know if these links are active. Are they? Could I hit this, Reyes? Can I hit one of those links? Oh, okay, good. This is for preparing for the IEP meeting. Let's see here. That's not the one I wanted. The one I want is the, this is it. Oh, it's not going where I want it to go. I know there's a link in here that we put for special education, and I might have to. Yeah, I might be in another section. I might have passed it, but at any rate, it's on slide 27. Oh, okay. It's worth taking a look. I really. Yes, that's the one. It's slide 27? Oh, there it is. There, that's it. Thank you. This is a 54-page document. If you all know anyone in the state of New Jersey who has a child with special needs, please give them this link. This is called the New Jersey Department of Education Parental Rights in Special Education. Just to give you an idea. Decision-making and participating in meetings, written notice, native language and written notice, consent, parental requests, use of insurance, evolution, independent evolution, eligibility, individual education program, transition to adult life. I mean, everything you need to know. Now, do we agree with everything that's in the document? Probably not, but you will have a tool that you can reference as you're walking through the journey with a child who has special needs. All of the rights of the parent and the child, many of them are captured in this document. It's an invaluable tool to have. You know, even parental requests for mediation, due process hearing, expedited due process. You know, it's extensive. There is, okay, so what I wanted to do was also reference this document, which is really helpful for anyone who's kind of sitting back. Remember Rosalie that we saw? You're chilling, you're sitting back, you don't know what to do. This document takes you from sitting on the couch to now I can stand up and I can lead. It's really, really very helpful. And it's all about leading in groups. And what does that entail? How do I engage others? How do I make something happen? This is called Opportunities to Get Involved, leading in groups. Oh, it's not? Oh. Oh, I'm sorry. This on my screen. I don't know. It's about fostering parent and professional collaboration. But this is what I'll do. I'm going to, do you see where my cursor is? Oh, okay, where it says English. It says serving on groups, English and Spanish. So that document is in English and Spanish. I call that, how do I get up out the chair and go get something done? That's what those documents are for. Now this next one is the actual, I don't know if it will launch. It won't launch. This is the curriculum that I was referencing earlier. This is the rights, they're calling this curriculum Rights, Respect, Responsibility, a K through 12 sexuality education curriculum. This is the curriculum I referenced earlier about what they're teaching, and unfortunately it's launching on my screen, but it's not launching for you all. But this is published by a group called Advocates for Youth, and it is on, the link that's there is the one that is available, you know, this is publicly available information. So, give you an idea, when you go to this link, they have this sexual education curriculum for the state of New Jersey, Illinois, Colorado, Maryland. Who else is in here? California, Florida. So when you go to this site, you'll see a bunch of tiles. And what you want to do is click on the tile. It says new, New Jersey lesson plans, additional lessons plans added. It'll pop up in like a fuchsia. Oh, there it is. Thank you. Can you click that one for us, Rays? The one for New Jersey? Thank you. So you all see that? Okay, so I'll tell you what it says. That first one says, by the end of grade 2. The next one says, by the end of grade 5. The next one is by the end of grade 8. And the last one is by the end of grade 12. So if you would, Raise, just hit the one that says by the end of grade 8. Look, every lesson. Yeah, you won't be able to see, but I'll just read you. Everybody's got body parts. Creating birth control basics. Healthy or unhealthy relationships. I am who I am. More than friends. New Jersey pregnancy basics. STD basics. Warning signs. Who should, when should a person? New Jersey, consent goes with everything. So, yes. So no, the QR code at the end brings you to the whole presentation. And then within the presentation, this is slide number, help me again, Easter. 26. This is slide number 26. These are active links. So when you click that link, it's going to take you directly to this site. And this is the content that the teachers have received, and they are telling them step by step how to share the information. Okay, I'm thinking slide 25. Okay, yeah. Now, this is the link where I'm suggesting share it with your friends. Share it with people who may not realize what is going on. And also share with them the law, Title 18A, so that they understand they have the right to review this curriculum, and then they have the right to exclude their children from being in the classroom to hear this curriculum. And their child cannot be penalized for hearing the curriculum, from hearing it. Their grade cannot be penalized. I would say it's extensive. When I tell you this curriculum is extensive, it's extensive. And I wouldn't want to, spend a lot of time, but I remember yesterday we were looking at it, and what was one of those terms they used, Kiki? It was mutual, was it? Mutual masturbation. So what they're suggesting is, instead of the two parties going into intercourse, they can do mutual masturbation. It's a form of abstinence, or, yeah. Call it low risk. Well, yeah, yeah. But what they're saying here is they don't have to get to that. They don't have to get to anal sex, because if they do mutual masturbation, they won't need to go to the higher risk behavior.
It's education here. When they're saying mutual masturbation, what do you mean? Like together?
Yes.
Doing it?
Yes.
Oh.
Correct.
Oh.
Yes, together. So, yeah, that's what they mean.
Oh, my God. Well, that's why.
That's why you need the curriculum. That's why we need to get educated on what's in the curriculum. Yes, Aunt.
But his father left him years ago. So in order for him to cope, and as a teenager, his mother introduced him to pornography. And he was a regular kid growing up, but he needed his father there, but his father abandoned all of the children. So in order for him to cope, his mother didn't know what to do, so she introduced him to the magazines to masturbate. And at the age of 40, he said it caused him to have mental illness. So now he's 40-something, And thank God he's saved, but even though through Christianity, he struggled with that along with massive mental illness. So all of that stuff being introduced at a young age causes mental illness. So it messed up his first marriage because it doesn't stop in the marriage.
Course.
So now at the second marriage, the wife is like, we're going to leave this church and we're going to go to a deliverance church. So now he's doing better, thank God, but the process of that caused them mental illness.
Wow.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
And so, because he missed that social and emotional attachment with a caring adult, now he's substituting something where he never has experienced intimacy. So now he's trying to have a marriage and he's like, what's wrong with me? Because you have no grid.
And we have counseled people that have had that issue of masturbation, and when they got married, they wind up getting divorced because they couldn't cohabitate. So, you know, it's not just let them just enjoy themselves and, do their thing. There's serious implications to this.
Yeah. This is very sad. So when you all, get an opportunity, I strongly recommend that everyone seriously reviews this, and as much as possible, share it with people you know. This is publicly available. I Googled it. I didn't go to anybody else to get the information because I feel like I need to know the source for myself, but we want our parents and our community to know the sources as well. I did put in here a link on how a bill becomes law. It's a great teacher. In other words, there are people who may want to delve into this area. And it's a great little primer. It's not really long, but it takes you step by step on how a bill becomes law. And to be perfectly honest, it's not that complicated if you begin to work with the legislator. So if you know, and I know can help us with a lot of that, but if you have a passion for something, you start by talking to your legislator and saying, hey, this is something I'm thinking about. What do you think about that? And they might resonate with it and say, you know what? I think I agree with you. Would you be willing to sponsor a bill? I think I could. I might even be able to get a couple of other legislators to go along with me. Let's see if we can craft something. So in other words, this takes you step by step of how a bill becomes law. And that's what our right is as citizens. When we elect our officials, they are elected for the will of the people. Again, I recommend, if that's something that's in your heart to do, connect with other people who believe the same thing you do. And so when you're going to your legislator, you could say, oh, wow, I have, signatures of 200 or 300 people who also resonate with this, and bring a constituent that represents those people and talk to that legislator. Now you've got, yes, sir.
Earlier this week in East Hanover, where Assemblyman Brian Bergen, who is I think a rhino, described the whole process of how this got into kindergarten. I think it's Carolyn Murphy, who's also a Democrat in the New Jersey Senate. They got them, Brian Bergen's a Republican, and he approved this for 9 to 12. So they had a vote on grades 9 to 12. And as soon as it passed, Carolyn Murphy wrote an amendment that amended it back to kindergarten, to K through elementary. So we chastised them a little bit, because being an assemblyman and say, well, didn't you see that? That's a clear two-step. I get you to shovel my driveway, and pretty soon you're painting my house. Right. That just was. So he didn't have a good answer as to why that. But the other bit of good news is that there are a number of different opt-outs, I guess, through those. But enough pushback is being felt by Trenton, where it looks like Governor Murphy is now going to say, okay, will make it an official opt-out, where right now it's just up to your local school boards, depending on the makeup of the school board, whether they're favorable to that or not. So anyway, it was just interesting to see it from a political perspective. This guy's like all smiles and says, "Yeah, I'm fighting for you." I said, "Well, it did," because I couldn't even see why he would vote for it for 9 through 12, because this has no business in the schools.
No. Wow. So you see, so there may need to be another conversation with these people who have voted in this way. And again, it's keeping the citizens aware of what is really happening is really the key, because you could speak to someone and they say, yeah, I'm back, I got your back, I'm supporting this, I'm not going to vote for it, and then all of a sudden they do a reversal. Where's the accountability with that? But that, again, I recommend you go and take a look at that. This is another document. It's based on the federal legislation, and it's about the 15 rights of citizens here in the U.S. public school system. And again, states then can take this and amend it, but from a federal perspective, we have rights as parents. And again, it's helpful to get familiar with that. I did put something here from the Family Policy Alliance, which is a back-to-school guide. And the key with that was, again, understanding what of what's happening in the school as it relates to classrooms and practical steps you can take to protect your children. Family Policy Council has a lot of information out there, and I think it's helpful to go on their site and take a look at all of the resources that they offer. Again, what I do recommend is that you do your research. You gotta search a matter out and understand what that impact is for you, your child, and your community. Well, did you take a picture? Let me get the QR code up again. There it is. Yeah. Great. She got it, thank God. Now she has a weapon. Listen, you know what? I'm laughing, but this information is a weapon. We are weaponized with this information. Because we don't just have to talk about it. We say, oh, you want to see it? Here's the link. That's really important for us. It's credibility, and it's empowering others with information. So we're coming to a close, but the question we have to ask ourselves is, if I'm a parent, then am I a leader? And here's the hard fact. Whether we want to believe it or not, whether we're a parent or not, if we're an adult in this culture, we're a leader. The question is, how are we going to exercise the authority? And I believe, as a believer, we have automatically stepped into leadership, whether we like it or not. And the question is, what is my purpose? What is my calling? What is my assignment? How do I have impact in this day that we're living in? If I'm not here to have an impact, then I need to have a conversation with God. Because I really believe every single one of us have been given the gift of salvation for a purpose. And it's a purpose that needs to be fulfilled. And that purpose leads to the issues of life. And I hope this has been helpful for you all. We condensed about 16 hours of information, and you'll see as you go through the links, it's extensive. The information that is here that we've been able to share. But I want to thank you, Pastor Tricia, thank you, Pastor Peter, and our team, I would like them to stand and thank them again, Kiki. And oh, by the way, Dyra is an excellent interpreter. She's part of our team, and she was here to do in Spanish interpretation for anyone who didn't speak English, and we even had headsets and everything. But we'll be ready next time, right? Thank you all so much.
Friends of mine in Arizona wrote a book. Could you put that graphic up? Thank you, Ray. It's called, when he gets it up there. They've had many, many open doors in Arizona, and they have been plowing the field for many years, never gave up. And they just wrote a book called Reclaim a Generation, 21 Days of Prayer for Schools. And it's available on Amazon, but they've been actually asked to go into the universities now and talk about prayer. So, as long as you keep at it, and enough people keep at it, things break open. So I just wanted to encourage you. You can actually go on their website, Hal and Cheryl Sachs. I don't know what it is, but if you just, I'm sure, put their names in. But they have accomplished a lot in Arizona. So I just wanted to give you that resource as well. Amen. So Carolyn, Pastor Carolyn, and your team, you did a wonderful job. Thank you for all that information.